Welcome to the playoffs. This is RamView.
It's hot out there, but let's blow them off the line of scrimmage. Headline,
Live from the Ram Cave, I'm Joe Terosian, and this is RamView, the January the 2nd, 2024 edition, brought to you by Kistler Law. Kistler Law, if you've been injured in an auto accident, do you need help? Do you have questions? Well, give Kistler Law a call at 661-206-6990. That's Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. And check out KistlerLawFirm.com. Kistler Law, they've been fighting for you since 92. And by Temple City Auto Repair, having some auto issues, get yourself some John and Henry at TempleCityAutoRepair.com. And of course, by Granite Ridge Christian Camp, a place where your life can change. Okay, the Rams are here. We did it, right? Well, they did it. We knew it was coming. Bill, good to have you with us. Thank you so much. I'll get to that question there in a second. Yeah, the Rams did it. They made it. It wasn't pretty, but they made it, and they've won 9 games, potentially to win 10. And I just hope it goes to show that some of us that aren't even in the room, which includes you, that you don't always have to defer to the experts, which are not experts, right? You don't have to defer. Go with what your eyes tell you. Look at schedules. Look who's matching up. Look who's playing. Look who's still on the roster, and make your own assessments. That is, if you're an invested fan. The non-invested fan goes with what the so-called media people say, and they were all so wrong. So this is great. So we're going to talk about the game in a minute against the Giants, and I'm not going to be very linear about that. I'm just going to hit things that kind of came up. You've reviewed the game. You stressed out about the game. You know what it is. And if we have questions, you throw them at me, and we'll get to them at the bottom of the first section there before we go into commercials, or when we get into the commercial section. And but yeah, we're going to talk Ram football. We're going to talk playoff picture. We're going to talk around the NFL and other places, which includes college football and what yesterday was. And then we're going to look at Rams updates, injuries. Brett Maher's back. And then we're going to remember old Tommy Prothro and his brief tenure with the Rams. And so, but let's get started right off the top. Opening here. Priority in the offseason, draft or sign a frontline cornerback. That's it. Boom. There you go. Draft or sign a frontline quarterback. The kid from Chicago, Jalen Jones, I'm trying to remember his name. The corner in Chicago, he's a top 10 rated free agent. If not, wherever the Rams are drafting, they're probably higher than 22 now in the first round. Get a cornerback. You can get a good cornerback. The Rams haven't drafted a cornerback in the top 100 since David Long in 2019, and that didn't work out. And David Long was 79th overall out of Michigan. But they need to try again. It's just not working. And also, I know he had the pick yesterday, but won't you be surprised if Jordan Fuller gets a second contract? That he, of all the Ram safeties that have come through, Rodney McLeod, TJ McDonald, JJ, the first time around, any of these guys, Nick Scott, Taylor Rapp, any of these guys, do you really think Jordan Fuller's going to get a contract? Because those breakdowns in the secondary, man, those are bad. And yeah, I think Witherspoon's been playing with fire, and such. But I also think there's quite a few times there those corners have been expecting help, and help hasn't been where it needs to be. Rams need help on the edge, so you can sign or draft another edge rusher. Some of these breakdowns in the secondary are occurring because they can't finish the deal. They had a lot of sacks on Sunday. Yeah, they did. They had a lot of sacks. I'm sorry, I was choking because they had a lot of sacks. But they didn't really get home when they needed to get home. The long bomb that Tyrod Taylor completed for a touchdown, that 80-plus yarder, they didn't get home when they needed to get home. And so, yeah, they need another edge rusher. So, corner, edge rusher, lineman, right? You should always draft a lineman every year. That's my particulars there. The Rams didn't play well. That's the other thing here. The Rams didn't play well, but they won. Earlier this season, they played some of these games better, but they lost. And I really think these experiences for this young team, it's going to take them into the 2024 season, and they're going to learn from it. There's some things they're going to learn right now going into the playoffs, but all this experience is really going to help them and helping them understand what they need to do to be an elite team. And I'm not basing this on what's going to happen in the next few weeks, but barring a catastrophic injury or even something bad happening during the offseason, the Rams Super Bowl window officially reopens when the new league season opens in March. I think it's mid-March, March 15th, someplace in there. When the new league season begins, I think the Rams Super Bowl window is officially open with who they've acquired in this past year, maybe who they keep and retain as well, the experience they've gained, a full load of draft picks, and a lot of money to spend. Yeah, I think the Super Bowl window for 2024 and 2025 is open, and that means you are going to think about re-signing Kevin Dotson, right? And you may want to think about re-signing Demarcus Robinson, even though he's pushing 30. There's things to think about here, but that Super Bowl window is going to open no matter what happens between now and the end of January. That Super Bowl window is going to open in March because no one's going to overlook the Rams this year. Quick question about Frisco next week, and I'll give you a quick answer. The Rams need to play their starters. I know there's a lot of speculation out there, and I'm not slamming anybody for saying it. They're saying Stafford's going to get some rest. Donald's going to. I understand all of it, but this is not an old team. This is a young team, and they need to keep their foot on the accelerator. In the second half, if the game gets out of hand, either way, if 49ers are blowing the Rams out or the Rams are blowing the 49ers out, then pull the veterans, right? But I think they need to come and play. And I'll also say this for another reason. I want to inflict more hurt on the 49ers. McCaffrey's banged up, the calf issue. Aaron Banks, their guard, has been hurt. A lot of these guys, Eric Armstead's been hurt. We want to inflict some damage upon them because here's the thing. I think there's a possibility the Rams could see them again, depending on how everything works out, right? In the final seedings, whether the Rams finish 6 or 7 and who they get in the first round. And so I want them banged up. I do. So I'd like to see the Rams play their starters. I'd like to see them go into this game to win it. And then, again, it's a paper victory, but 10 wins would be a heck of a statement, and I don't think it's necessary, but it would be a heck of a statement. Looking at the Rams-Giants game, this is just random stuff, so it's not linear at all. Did you see Joe Noteboom at left tackle? Yeah, Stafford was sacked 4 times, but a lot of those sacks were free runs to him. What the Giants couldn't get done in the first half, they were getting done in the second half. Wink Martindale has all those blitz combinations and everything, and he found the right combo by the time the second half started to really start getting pressure on Stafford and such. So it was going to come, but Joe Noteboom played a pretty good game at left tackle. Hopefully Alaric Jackson is back this week. But remember when everyone was saying, let's get rid of Joe Noteboom? I don't like the contract. You're stuck with it for another year. But what a utility piece. He's like the Ben Zobrist along that offensive line, if you remember that utility infielder. Watching this Rams offense, I was reminded that this is the third time in my life I have total confidence in the offense. I might not like some of the plays, but I saw the Zambezi Everett teams of the late 80s and 88, 89 when they were at their peak. Then, of course, we all saw The Greatest Show on Turf. And then this offense, it just seems like when they're clicking, you just have a lot of confidence in them. They're gonna make plays. They're gonna get things done. And so, yeah, every time you see them, you feel confident. And, they move the ball against the Ravens. They've moved the ball without Cooper Kupp against the 49ers. They've moved the ball. But with that said, don't Ram fans all get a little nervous when they see the Rams pass on 1st and goal instead of pounding it? I do. It's like, just keep pounding it, right? Question came to me, not online, but from a friend, Stafford or Warner, who do I like? I know more about football than I did 20 years ago, and I was working in the press. I was doing things, but I know more now than I did 20 years ago. And 20 years ago, I knew more than I did, say, in 1980. Right? What I appreciated about Kurt Warner was his ability to deliver the call quickly, bang bang, accurately. He just got rid of it so fast, and of course, your eyes are just going to be mesmerized when you go from Tony Banks to Kurt Warner, right? And but I think a lot of it was Warner. Warner was just had this quick release. He looked like he had played AFL arena football, where you got to make a quick decision. He was such a fast decision maker. But watching Stafford again, he's an elite quarterback, just like Warner was. And if Warner's a Hall of Famer, to me, Stafford's a Hall of Famer. But Stafford makes throws I've never seen before, continually. Not a miracle throw where it happens once every 5 seasons or once every 5 games, but Stafford continually makes throws that I've never seen before, or if I saw them, I didn't have the chops of understanding football to understand how difficult those throws were. So yeah, right now I lean Stafford. I know that might be heresy, but yeah, those guys are just great quarterbacks, but I lean Stafford because you just have the confidence that he can make throws. I don't like people saying he had a bad game. Yeah, he got picked twice, but that's when the combination, the Wink Martindale blitz packages started having an effect, and he was giving up the ball a little too soon. That first half interception wasn't good, and the second half one wasn't great either. I understand that. But the guy threw for over 300 yards, and when we needed him, he made plays to get downfield. And you're not going to win any points with me. Call Stafford a bad quarterback, or even saying he had a bad game on Sunday. He had a couple of bad moments. Tutu Atwell had 4 snaps early on. He blocked. You can see him blocking, but he had no targets. The number 3 receiver position safely in the hands of Demarcus Robinson, as long as he doesn't fumble the ball. And that was a bummer about Demarcus fumbling the ball at midfield. He had both hands on it, right? You see him with it, and then Belton comes in and punches it. And then that's a big change right there. What is it, 14-7 when that happens? Rams get you don't know if they'd have gotten a field goal. Let's say they score a touchdown. It's 21-7 at the half instead of 14-10, and it's just a whole different ball game. Again, going back to the secondary that I talked about at the top of the show, that 3rd and 18 throw early in the first half where Tyrod Taylor completed for a first down along the sideline there, and then later the 86-yard TD pass. I think it was 86 yards. It just reminded me, I thought the secondary was supposed to be all better because Darian Kendrick wasn't playing, right? Everyone tries to build it up that it was all Darian Kendrick's fault. Everything's Darian Kendrick's fault. But did you see the nice play Darian Kendrick made in the second half to turn a certain touchdown into just a field goal, right? Maybe it's not all Darian Kendrick's fault. He's become the whipping boy for the online folks. He's become the whipping boy for the media. But sometimes, guys, you just have to watch the game and understand while he has been far from perfect, he's not the only problem in that secondary. And so just something to think about. I thought in the first half, Tyler Higbee was really earning that extension that he got finally. Did you see the one-handed grab he made? That was beautiful. And then did you see the 2-handed drop he had, right, in the second half? That guy, right? Seeing Puka puke on the sidelines in the second half. Do you remember a day, if you're an old-time Ram fan, I know a lot of you are. Bill, you're one of them. Steeler fan Rob. I think Mr. Tim Burns up there in the NorCal area is. There was the day the Rams beat the Cardinals, I think in '79 at the Coliseum, and Wendell Tyler puked up some chili dogs. And that's what I started thinking of when Puka was heaving on the sidelines. I was thinking of Wendell Tyler. And then imagine this, as the kicking game went to the dogs, right? Imagine being Sean McVay, knowing you can't use your kicker to kick a field goal, right? And then knowing that every punt returner you face now is Devin Hester. Imagine trying to run that show and guide that ship. Man, that is brutal. That is absolutely brutal. I often play this one here.
Stay in your lane, bro.
I often say stay in your lane when I drift away from sports, but really somebody on those return teams needs to stay in their lane and prevent these returns from happening, because the defense really did do its job. There's a breakdown in the secondary on the long touchdown pass. There's the fumble. And then there's these kick returns, and you take away 2 touchdowns here, and this isn't a game, but the Rams allowed them to be in the game. And then, of course, Luke Haversick kicked his way into oblivion. And that's another thing, too, I'm picking up in a lot of media circles and everything. When they start talking about the money that athletes make, and people go, God, that's a lot of money. They say, hey, they're entertainers. Nicolas Cage or whoever, Tom Cruise gets 20 million a film or whatever, and they talk about it, but they're entertainers, right? So we criticize our entertainers. If they make a bad movie, we say they made a bad movie. Or if their acting stinks, we say their acting stinks. But all of a sudden, there's this little wave here of like, hey, I don't want to cost anybody their job or say somebody's bad or anything like that. No, Luke Haversick was terrible. I kept on trying to give him the benefit of the doubt, but I was done with him. I was done with him on Sunday, because he got every chance imaginable. And there were moments kicking in the rain in Baltimore that he showed, all right, this is likely the guy. But no, so you could say fire Lucas Haversick, right? Just like you could say fire Josh McDaniel, fire Brandon Staley. It's entertainment, right? It's going to be criticized. It's going to be critiqued. You don't wish bad will on them, but you gotta assess of what you see, and the Rams assessed, and Luke Haversick's gone. I do have to say this before I move on to the playoff picture and stuff. I've been confident about the Rams all year. If you're with us all off season, I've been confident about the Rams. I said a bad season, a average season would be 8-9. I expect 9-8. I said it would take a miracle to get to 10-7, and that would be great, right? But I have to tell you, the only time in the last 9 months I've lost hope, when Tyrod Taylor broke off that run late in the fourth, less than a minute to play, right? He got just to about the 40, maybe inside the 40. I thought it was over. I thought it was over. I just thought, no, that's it. We're toast, right? Because Mason Crosby was just too perfect, right? Mason Crosby, the guy the Rams decided not to keep, right, over to keep Lucas Haversick. He's going to come in, and we had briefly mentioned it last week. Could you imagine if Crosby kicks the winning field goal here? And it was all happening, and it was this perfect nightmare. And I'm going to admit, I lost hope. And then the minute that that kick just plowed to the left, did you see how I guess they said the wind took it? Did you just see how it just? It was like a bowling ball. What they call that, a Brooklyn, turn there. It just rolled right off the aisle there, and he missed it. When that happened, all of a sudden I'm thinking, no, man, Rams are a team of destiny. But there was a 40-second span in there that I thought the Rams were toast. I did. I lost hope. So I admit it. I put myself upon the altar for your forgiveness as a Ram fan. But yeah, I did lose hope, and Mason Crosby restored hope to me in that game. So there we go. Playoff picture: 49ers are 12-4. Lions, do you want to talk about the Lions? Do you want to talk about that shafting they got at the hands of the Cowboys there, the officials? And something has to change where the NFL doesn't just get to say, oh, oops, sorry. That sorry's not going to cut it, right? And at some point, you got to stop the game. And they buzz down other times. Somebody's got to buzz down and say, this can't happen, guys. This can't happen. And I just loved it, because every time someone was trying to justify it, you just looked a little closer at the play and you knew it couldn't be justified, right? Even in the formation, you see the formation. It's a legal formation. They tried to say it was an illegal formation, but it was a legal formation. The Cowboys knew who the eligible guys were. Everyone knew what it was, and the refs biffed it. And oops, sorry. That part really bugged me. But the Cowboys are 11-5. Buccaneers lost. They're 8-8 and still have a chance to win the NFC North. Eagles are 11-5. Rams are 9-7. Packers are 8-8. And that one's interesting. Packers win next week. They go to 9-8. Rams lose. They go to 9-8. That means the Rams drop to number 7. And I think if the Rams drop to number 7, I think we go to Dallas. I'm not sure quite yet, but I think we go to Dallas, and then it works from there. Everyone's all up for the Rams playing the Lions. I know the NFL wants the Rams to play the Lions. I don't know. To tell you the truth, I think the Rams, even though the 49ers are going to be on bye the first round of the playoffs, I think the Rams are the best team that has a chance maybe of upsetting the 49ers. Cowboys don't scare me. This is going to be a different Ram team that goes into Texas. Good team. Cowboys are a good team, but they don't scare me. And then the Eagles. I have no problem playing Philly. Do you have any problem playing Philly right now? I got no problem playing Philly. We should have beat them at SoFi earlier this year. So there's opportunity here. But the Packers, because of that loss in week 9, could get the 6th seed, and the Rams drop back to the 7th seed. And then, of course, you got the Saints playing the Falcons. You got the Seahawks, Cardinals. Seahawks are still alive. Cardinals, no easy out right now. Jonathan Gannon's done a great job there. Falcons, Saints, we talked about that. Vikings, Lions, and Vikings are done. I just didn't get what Kevin O'Connell was thinking in terms of what was he thinking that he was going to start Jaron Hall in the biggest game of the year and not just go with Nick Mullins. I mean, Nick Mullins is hardly, the next, Gary Kubiak, but goodness gracious, Jaron Hall, really? I mean, why don't you start Tyler Palko or somebody? I just didn't get what he was thinking there. And a couple of those things down the stretch, I didn't get what Kevin O'Connell was thinking in some of those games this year. So the Vikings are pretty much done. AFC playoff picture, which I really haven't spent any time on, but we know the Ravens are 13-3. Dolphins with that loss are 11-5. They're playing the Bills. The Bills are 10-6. The Bills win. Bills win the AFC East. But here's the thing. They lose, and I think a couple other things work out. The Steelers win. The Bills could be a 10-win team and miss the playoffs. They could be a 10-win team and miss the playoffs. Chiefs are in. Jaguars have their hands full. They're 9-7, but we're going to see how they play out this week. Colts Texans is huge. AFC is kind of a weird one here, but this is the one thing I will say about the AFC. Everyone's talking about who's going to beat the Ravens. No one's going to beat the Ravens. Don't sleep on the Browns. Now, the Browns are a team that could get upset by the Texans, right? But they're also a team that could go and beat the Ravens because of familiarity and an experienced quarterback and a pass rush. Don't count the Browns out at all in the AFC. In fact, where I don't think any team in the NFC right now can really beat the 49ers except maybe the Rams in an upset. I don't know. Who's going to beat the Ravens? Dolphins, Chiefs, Jaguars, Bills? How about the Browns? I think the Browns could beat the Ravens. Okay, around the NFL and other places, those other places are, let me ask you, how many opt-outs were there at Florida State, right? Something like 23 opt-outs at Florida State that didn't play in their bowl game against Georgia. And gloating over that victory is kind of a joke. College football was an entity that supplied players to the NFL. And this is kind of a subtle line here, but now college football at the moment looks like nothing but a little more expensive farm system for the NFL, and where the NFL takes priority over everything else. 23 players at Florida State. Are 23 players at Florida State going to go play in the NFL? And they're all working the system to get, a better NIL deal. I get it. But this just tells us the bowl system is absolutely dead. It's dead. And it's all the NCAA's fault, and that's cool. I want the NCAA to suffer. They can make some of these, these playoff games, make them the bowl games going forward or something. I think Joel Klatt, or was it Kirk Herbstreit, suggested making the Rose Bowl like the Super Bowl for the finals, and I'm all for that and everything. But the whole portal system, everything, it's all out of whack. It's just all out of whack. And so yeah, I was so uninterested in all the other bowl games this year. I just was. I do give I do give the players that do have NFL potential that played in their bowl games as seniors, I give them a lot of credit. Michigan, Alabama. For Michigan, Alabama, Michigan did everything. You thought the Rams special teams were bad. Boy, the Wolverines were doing everything they could to give that ball game away yesterday. But it all really come down to for Jalen Milroe, right? The moment was big, the snap was low, and Milroe panicked like a sophomore. If his head is up, right, if he slides to his left, and I don't know if anyone talked about this, but if he slides to his left as a block is coming in and knocking a Wolverine defender into the line of scrimmage, if he just moves to his left, he probably dances into the end zone and extends that overtime yesterday. But the snap was low, and he made a sophomorish play. He just went straight ahead. And if you just look to his left, did you guys see it? Maybe he has to break one tackle, but he'd have gotten there. I think he'd have gotten there. But I'm really happy Michigan won. For the life of me, I was sitting with some friends watching the game, wondering why this season has J.J. McCarthy just absolutely stopped running. I don't think he's a good enough passer to stop running. And so, yeah, I then right at the end there, right, did you notice he actually had a big run? They finally tucked it away and had him run the ball. I think Washington has a shot. I'm leaning Michigan because it's Michigan, and I want Jim Harbaugh to stick it to the NCAA as best he can. But I think Washington has a definite shot to win this game. Washington and Texas, and all I can say is, I think you're dreaming if you got Jaden Daniels ahead of Michael Penix on your draft board. Wouldn't you say so? Throw it at me if I'm wrong. I know it's got a weird release, that lefty, but boy, that arm, and he moves around the pocket well enough, and people are worried about injuries. But you know what? Bring him in, find out if he can play, because if he can play, you've got an amazing quarterback. And that guy is so accurate. And he was the difference. Quinn Ewers wasn't bad. It's just that Michael Penix was great. And those receivers at Washington are off the charts. All right. I'm Joe Terosian. I was a sports writer for 21 years. I'm still laughing. I got a note here. Someone sent me the text. That big cough I had at the start of the show, I apologize for it. It was not me suppressing a laugh at anyone's expense, but it was a cough. But I was a sports writer for 21 years. I was one of the founding guys at Mid-Valley Sports. Those guys are still in the business. I've worked for newspapers and various websites through the years. And now I do RamView, thanks to our sponsors at Kistler Law. That's one word, KistlerLawFirm.com. You can check them out there, and through Temple City Auto Repair. And I write books, and my books are on Amazon. Just type in Joe Terosian, and you'll see my books there. A copy of this book, Tangent Dreams. I've written 2 high school football novels, and these 2, they were received well. I think one's on the air thing there. They were received well, did well. And a copy of this is actually going to Steeler fan Rob in Missouri, as also a Kistler Law Cup, because we had an agreement that if the Steelers can beat Seattle in Seattle and the Rams win and the Steelers deliver us some good mojo, that I would send him a copy of my book and a mug. And so Steeler fan Rob, it will be on the way manana, and enjoy it. I do want to see you holding it up with some kind of social media picture and such. So you can check us out on Amazon. That would be great. All right, we got some questions here. Bill, Turner, Young, Puka, Avila. What a draft. Might be the Rams' best draft ever. There have been some great Ram drafts, Bill, and it was so funny when I was prepping for the show today. I was looking at a recent Ram draft. Now, some of those Klosterman drafts, I don't have my finger to press right here to get right to it. But you know what you're looking at here? You're looking at possibly 5 to 6 starters, or even contributors, right? They haven't been listing Kobe Turner as a starter, but we know he's getting most of the reps there alongside Donald. And then Davis Allen has played like a starter at various points this year. And so I was saying 6 of the 14 have become starters of this year's draft. But if you go to the 2019 draft, the Rams took, think about this. The Rams took Taylor Rapp, Darrell Henderson, David Long, Bobby Evans, Greg Gaines, David Edwards, Nick Scott, and Dakota Allen. Dakota Allen did nothing, okay? And we know all these guys are gone now. But Taylor Rapp started the Super Bowl. Darrell Henderson did. Greg Gaines did. David Edwards did. Nick Scott did. All those guys were contributors to the Super Bowl team in 2021, 2 years later. And you're right, this is a heck of a draft for the Rams. And so if you were with us at the top of the show, I was talking about how when the league season begins, I don't know if that's March 15th, 14th, whatever it starts, the new league season begins, the Rams Super Bowl window is officially open. And that should dictate how they spend their offseason in terms of signing free agents, because they got money to spend, full complement of picks. And I think 2024 and 2025 are going to be the last great run with Aaron Donald, hopefully Kupp, and, of course, Matthew Stafford. That window will be open. I didn't know it was going to open that soon, but it did. But this has absolutely been a great draft, according to what we've seen with the McSnead regime. Did you see Williams pull the ball from that Giant fan? Yeah, Williams' mom, huh? Dang. She might be that nasty free safety that we need to rough people up, man. She played tough. Wish you could file a protest like in baseball. Oh, Steve, are you talking about Steve Ramirez, legendary sports writer? Steve, you're talking about the Dallas game? Yeah. I guess when you're not playing 162, right, and everything's a little more condensed in the schedule, but there's got to be something that works out better than aw shucks, sorry. And there always seems to be an aw shucks in Dallas, right? Like pass interference on Calvin Johnson that wasn't called, right? Anyway, NFL, Tim Burns, NFL is showing there is a shady things afoot at the top. That seating is tainted. Oh, okay. All right. Love your thank you, Tim Burns. I don't want to get too far into that because you know how easy I'm triggered when it comes, because I'm so anti-Cowboy. Marty, love your content, man. You're not just a homer like Ramelia Sports Report. Thank you, Marty. You hit it on the head, what we don't want to be. And thank you so much for that. When your team sucks, you got to say your team sucks, right? And you got to keep a clear head. But Marty, that is a nice compliment. Thank you so, so much. Thanks for clicking on. And I hope you subscribe. Tim Burns, McCaffrey out, so we need to steal a win in week 18. Hey, what did you guys think? At the top of the show, I said, I want the Rams to come out and play to win this game. I don't really want us to rest our start. This is a young team, and you need to keep your foot on the accelerator with a young team. If it was an older team and it was 2021, I'd say, okay, take your foot off a little bit. These guys are experienced vets. But no, I think they need to go in just for the experience of playing in Levi, playing that red and gold and banging heads. And, if it gets out of hand in the second half, pull Stafford, pull McDonald and everything, but get that win, get the 10th win, secure the 6th seed. And then, maybe the 49ers are a little ticked off or a little bruised the next time you face them. I'm just thinking that way. I want to see him. And if I'm the 49ers, I'm not playing McCaffrey. I don't care if he's out or not. I want to beat him. Penix has a funky hitch too in his mechanics. He does, but you know what? It doesn't seem to slow his release, right? He gets it out quick, right? He gets it out quick. Steve Ramirez, I'm hearing the Raiders want to pick Daniels, especially if they promote Pierce with ASU connections. That very well might be. I haven't heard anything about that. I think the good move, the right move, after what they did with Bisaccia. I think the right move here is to keep Antonio Pierce, keep that offensive coordinator, get your hands on a quarterback. I will say this, though. And I said it at the top of the show too. How do you have Jaden Daniels ahead of Michael Penix? I know I've got my ASU eyes on Jaden Daniels, and I haven't shaken it off. He's played great, but he hasn't had any big wins. Look what Michael Penix is doing against the best of the best in college football. And I think the Raiders would be making a mistake. I think I'd go more traditional drop back if they're still thinking Drake May or something like that. I think, Jaden Daniels might be a reach. And the last time they took a quarterback from LSU, didn't he have a few problems with the Raiders? Tracy Amos. I don't know, Tracy, if this is the first time, thank you for clicking on. Fire the refs. Well, they did put Brad Allen's crew on the sidelines, right? They're on ice. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I read where that crew, which was also the crew in the Chiefs Packers game at Lambeau a few weeks ago, that they been put on ice for the postseason. And there was a lot of points there. What was Brad Allen's hurry? Why not get it right? Why not, we stop the game if there's a little tick wrong with the clock, come in there and say, whoa, I'm not clear on this. Explain it to me. There was all sorts of things they could have done. And because the clock was already stopped. But they blew it. So Tracy Amos, even if we lose, we still have the wild card spot. Absolutely. Rams are in. And that's the miracle, right, guys? That's the miracle. The Rams are in. And don't let anyone sell you short, right? Know what you know, see what you see. Be real when it maybe it goes wrong. But there was no way to look at the schedule this year and see who the Rams have coming back and know that if the offensive line was healthy, there was potential to at least be in the talk. If the Rams went 9-8 and missed the playoffs, but they went 9-8 and up through week 18 and 17, they were in the playoff discussion, that was a successful season. Now that we're playing another game in the postseason, it's been an amazingly successful season. And my feeling that I want to share is don't get over emotional about it. When there's a big thing, bad thing that happens, let's not get caught up and fire this guy or Stafford's too old or anything like that. But let's get caught up in, hey, it's a young team and the Super Bowl window officially opens in March. Bill, I heard today Puka threw up on the sideline after his 80-yard reception into a bucket. Yeah, that's what I brought up. Does anyone remember Wendell Tyler throwing up against the Cardinals back in '79? I know I'm aging myself. I was just a kid. It was the whole chili dog affair. He was wolfing the chili dogs, I guess, before the game, and he was playing great, and then he was puking his guts out on the sideline. Nothing like the CBS, right? Or was that who was that? Who Fox showing us the best rookie receiver in football puking his guts out of the sidelines, right? If there's an injury, we can't handle it, but they'll show us someone puking, right? Tracy Amos, thank you. Tim Burns, well done, Joe. We are seeing your content and answers on other sites. Are you serious, Chief? Thank you so much, guys. I really, really appreciate that. There are a lot of guys doing this, and there's a lot of guys doing good stuff. So one of the things we knew is that we had to go deep. We got to do some content. We got to do background because I got a face for radio. I don't have a face that's going to charm you, and I'm not a graphics guy. We're going to have to build into that, though. Okay, let's move on. And if you have more questions, I'll get to them at the end of the show because I appreciate your time. Rams update. Alaric Jackson, they said it was a thigh thing on Friday, and then there's a family personal issue when it came to the game. However, he's expected to return to the team today. That's really important. Joe Noteboom played through a plantar fasciitis in his heel. I've had that several times. That is a painful, painful experience. But Joe Noteboom, like I said, he's the Ben Zobrist. He's the Daryl Thomas, right? He's the Bob Baylor. He's that utility guy along the offensive line. Thank goodness for Joe Noteboom. I'm not big on his contract, but he does perform. The good news on Bobby Brown is it was a hyperextended knee. He's expected to be good to go on Sunday. That's cool. Tyler Higbee, shoulder injury. I think they expect him to play, but we should probably expect more Davis Allen. Jordan Fuller, ankle injury. I've been anti-Jordan Fuller, but no one wants his ankle hurt because we want him playing, right? Rams re-signed Dresser Wynn at quarterback, which some have maybe it's important too that maybe Stafford will sit on Sunday. I've said I want the Rams to play their starters. I want them to go in there and win that game. But I'm not going to argue with the McSnead regime on this. But that would make sense. You bring back a guy that's familiar with the offense to be a backup to Wentz, and maybe it's not a bad idea to have Wentz get a whole truckload of snaps in one game here. So he's fire tested when January the playoffs start in a couple. We are in January in a week or so. And of course, Brett Maher is back, and Brett Maher is back. That one really made me laugh because we were so done with him. Right? There's no one worse than Brett Maher. Yeah, it's called Lucas Havrisik, and so Brett Maher is back. I would have taken a page out of the Cowboys. I would have looked for somebody in the XFL, USFL, somebody to to bring in, but they're going to dance with Mar. And heck, if he could just hit his PATs, we'll be good, right? Just hit your PATs, and we'll be good with that. Speaking of XFL, USFL, they've merged. They're the UFL now. There was a UFL about 14, 15 years ago, but this is the new UFL. But there's not a team in Los Angeles. You know what? You want some interest? You want me watching? Put a team in Los Angeles. We'll talk about them a little bit. We'll talk about them. Okay, by the numbers, this Ram game, contrary to what the narratives of some have been, the offensive line played well. Not great, but well. Wink Martindale's no joke as a DC, but the PFF grades reflected that the Rams did a pretty good job in the offensive line. Coleman Shelton did struggle. We saw that. You can see it with your eyes. But he's playing against Dexter Lawrence. I mean, Dexter Lawrence, to me, might even be superseding Chris Jones these days. You just don't know it because he's on a cruddy team. But Dexter Lawrence can play. Dexter Lawrence can play. And give that guy credit, right? His team's going nowhere. He's nursing a hamstring, and that guy was lights out. That guy was playing serious ball. Also, it was interesting to note that the offensive starters for the Rams only missed 15 snaps, right? Atwell, Davis Allen, and Ronnie Rivers each had 4 snaps each, right? So the Rams really went heavy with their starters the whole game. Defensively, I thought it was interesting when I looked at the PFF grades. It seemed to lay the blame in the secondary on Johnny Johnson. I personally thought it was more Jordan Fuller than Johnny Johnson than JJ. And they pretty much let Witherspoon off the hook. He didn't grade well, but he probably should have graded worse. There have been a lot of games where Witherspoon has played that spot where he's kind of closed at the last minute and tipped the ball away. He got burned, but then again, he was probably expecting help. Ironically, when you look at the defensive grades, with 21 snaps, the third best graded Ram defender behind Kobe Turner and Aaron Donald is, drumroll please, Darian Kendrick. Isn't that amazing? That is pretty amazing that it was Darian Kendrick. Again, I like Darian Kendrick. I still think he's learning to play, and the Rams obviously like him. And maybe we're going to see something more from him next year. I don't know. That's me. I'm positive. But looking at the defensive line, we know who Aaron Donald is, but Kobe Turner is feasting, and he's doing exactly what we need him to do. He played 61 snaps, one less than his career high, with Bobby Brown going out. And, of course, Turner is grading top 10. But can I just say this about Kobe Turner? Ram fans, let it go. I don't care if he's Defensive Rookie of the Year. Maybe for their sake, personally, if they want it. But I'm so amazed that we're caught up in conversations about Puka's got to be Offensive Rookie of the Year. Kobe's got to be Offensive Rookie of the or Defensive Rookie of the Year. I don't care. I think if there's ever been a season where I've cared less about Rams stats, and I used to care a lot about the stats, but this team is such a mishmash. It's such a different type of team. It feels like the 79 Rams where nothing's perfect, and yet they just keep getting done what they need to get done and putting themselves in position. And strong arm quarterback, some fast receivers. It's exciting, but I'm not caught up with Kobe Turner not getting his love. Hey, do we appreciate him? Yes. I just hope when the time comes and all the contract stuff is ready, that we appreciate a Kobe Turner, that we appreciate even a Byron Young who he didn't grade well, but Byron Young played a better game, I thought, and he did pick up a sack. And then you got Quentin Lake and Ernest Jones, who are both becoming bona fide high-tier starters. And again, when their contracts come up, I know we don't sign off-ball linebackers, but man, I don't want to see Ernest Jones in another uniform. I really like Ernest Jones, right? He's our Roquan Smith. He's our Fred Warner. He's our Bobby Wagner. A little bit different game, but don't you guys love Ernest Jones? Love Ernest Jones. Okay, just running through the scores here. Last week, we saw the Browns beat the Jets. We saw the Cowboys steal one. It was like Munich in 72 with Beloff, and the Cowboys beat the Lions. Ravens, Dolphins, paper tigers. Ravens beat the Dolphins 56-19. Bills, Patriots. Bills kind of horsed around. I still think they're going to beat the Dolphins this week because they have to beat the Dolphins to get in. They don't want to be 10-7 and miss the playoffs. Falcons, Bears. It's just another showcase for Justin Fields, and I hope he does really well, and the Bears can deal him for a good second-round pick. But they need to go Caleb Williams. Jaguars, Panthers. Nothing like the Panther owners throwing beer on Jacksonville fans. Cardinals, Eagles. Eagles are in serious trouble. Eagles are in serious trouble. Hey, did you guys see the Rams play the Cardinals with Kyler Murray back? Yeah, you saw the Rams, and the Rams took care of business. The Eagles are the defending NFC champs. They are falling apart, and they are ripe for a needle to be put in them and to be blown up. Buccaneers did not take care of business, and now they got another chance. So we'll see what happens this week. Saints remain alive. 49ers, Texans, we saw that. Steelers, Seahawks. God bless Mason Rudolph, right? God bless Mason Rudolph. All right. Chargers, Broncos. Who cares? Bengals, Chiefs. I thought the Bengals were going to take that. Chiefs pulled it out. Chiefs are 10-6. Again, everyone's down on the Chiefs. I understand the Swift effect. I believe it's real. I believe she's a distraction. I believe they're aging. I believe that's Tyler Kelsey. Is it Travis Swift or Tyler Kelsey? I'm not sure. Taylor Kelsey. Anyway, we know who that tight end is. And I think he's aging. They don't have big receivers. But you know what? They're still the Kansas City Chiefs and still Patrick Mahomes. So I don't think you want to play him. Packers, Vikings, and we talked about that. I don't know what Kevin O'Connell was thinking, but Jordan Fuller looks like the real deal, right? He looks like he's going to be something special going down the road. All right, on this date in Ram history, January the 2nd, 1971, the Rams hired former UCLA head coach Tommy Prothro to a 5-year contract. And Tommy Prothro lasted 2 years for the Rams, had a 14-12-2 record. Rams didn't make the playoffs. In 71, they went 8-5-1 and missed the playoffs in the division by, I think, one game. I think the 49ers were 9-4-1. And then in 1972, the Rams were at a 5-2-1 record, and they ended up losing a bunch of their last games. They finished 6-7-1. They missed the playoffs, but even as a 6-7-1 team, if the 49ers had lost to the Vikings on the last day of the season, the Rams would have made the playoffs because they beat the 49ers twice. And so they hired Tommy Prothro on this day, and that's what he produced. And, of course, they kicked him to the curb after the 72 season, and they brought in Chuck Knox. And people liked Prothro. Prothro was innovative, but, around my house, Prothro was the worst coach in Ram history until you got to probably, he who should not be named. And I don't think Jeff Fisher was the worst coach in Rams history. Maybe we got some Spagnuolo there. Maybe we got some Rich Brooks in there. Maybe we got Ray Malavasi circa 82. But yeah, Prothro ended up suing the Rams. They settled out of court. He ended up coaching he was the last coach of the Chargers before Coryell came in. And I think Prothro was instrumental in really getting Dan Fouts going. So he was ready to go by the time Coryell came in from the Cardinals. And so he was a smart football guy. You just always see him with the smoke, right, on the sidelines. He passed away in 1995. On this day in 2006, the Rams officially fired Mike Martz as HC. People hated Martz at the time, but boy, what came after wasn't so good, was it? On this date in 2017, it was interesting. On New Year's Day, 2017, I was at the Coliseum. Bones Fossil was coaching the last of his internship, filling in for after the fired he who must not be named, Jeff Fisher. I said it. There we go. And this was the last game with Greg Williams and Rob Boris. Greg Williams was the DC. Rob Boris was the OC. Boy, that was a bad coaching staff. Bad coaching staff. Other news on this day. In 1982, the Rams were 1-7, and they went into Frisco. Last game of the season, and they beat the 49ers. Ivory Sully blocked a kick, and the Rams beat Frisco 21-20. And what people don't remember is that Frisco in 82, they had won the Super Bowl in 81. And then, of course, they were NFC Championship game in 83, Super Bowl champs in 84. But no one remembers the strike season. They fell apart. They didn't make the playoffs. I think they were, 2-6-1 or 3-6 or something like that. They didn't have a running back. So here's what the Rams did. Thank you, Rams. This is what you do when you get rid of Don Klosterman, right? When Don Klosterman has no authority in your room. Rams beat Frisco 21-20 the last day of the 1982 season. We're heading into 1983, right? The Rams trade. Now we're going to get Eric Dickerson. That's cool. We drafted Eric Dickerson, but we trade Wendell Tyler. Okay, I understand. I loved Wendell Tyler. You had to deal him, but Frisco didn't have a running back. And we said, oh, Frisco, too bad. You mean Bill Walsh, the most brilliant offensive mind in the NFL? He doesn't have a running back. Oh, by the way, let's give him Wendell Tyler. Let's give him Wendell Tyler and let him run for 1,000 yards that year, another 700 yards in 1984 in the same backfield with Roger Craig. And then let's let Wendell Tyler have a Super Bowl with the 49ers playing in the same division with the Rams, right? That's what you get when you don't let Don Klosterman keep his job, right? And that's how your team ultimately ends up moving, right? So had to get that one out. I was a little frustrated here. On this date in 2010, the Rams lost a Sunday night football game to the Seattle Seahawks. If you remember that year, the Rams were 7-8-1. It was Steve Spagnuolo's rookie year, first year as a head coach, I think, and no one expected the Rams, and they went to that last game, and the Seahawks, both teams were under 500, and that was the game the Seahawks beat the Rams with Charlie Whitehurst at quarterback. Yeah, that one was pretty brutal. Better memory on this date in 2021, Rams won in Baltimore 20-19, and Lamar Jackson didn't play, but that was the game where the Rams had to come back. They were down something like 16-7 at the start of the fourth. And then on the final drive, the drive that led to the game-winning score was an Odell Beckham touchdown pass. The Rams were facing a 4th and 1 or a 4th and 2. And it was to me, it is the moment Odell Beckham really became around, because this was the biggest catch that he made. He just a little turn in, and Stafford fired a bullet, and Odell Beckham caught it to confirm the first down. A few plays later, he caught the game-winning touchdown. And so there we go. And man, guys, I went 50 minutes today. Man, that is long. Let me answer your questions, guys, and I promise I'll get you out of here. I appreciate you guys sticking with me. Geez nuts. Man, that was a hard game to watch on Sunday, but we pulled it out. Hopefully we got that out of our system, and now we can handle the Niners and go in hot. Hey, geez nuts, don't you want to see them play them for keeps? That we don't want to just bench everybody. I want to see us go full throttle into Levi. Stafford struggled with some key throws. Geez, he had 2 bad throws, but that blitz was getting to them in the second half. I don't think Stafford played a bad game. It wasn't his best, but it wasn't a bad game. Give credit. The Giants were a team that came out and played for their coach. They played for pride. They just didn't roll over and die. I mean, they were a team that had nothing to lose, and the Rams took their best punch as well as played poorly, and they survived. And so I give credit to the Giants on that one. Tim Burns, now do we give Kyron more dollars before he runs for 400 yards, 5 TDs? No, you don't. As much as we like Kyron, we don't want to do that, because we don't have to right now. He's only in his second year. Let's let him be an all-pro guy next year, his third year, and then he'll hate the Rams for not giving him a new contract, just like every other running back does. But look at the guys that were making the noise this year, right? Saquon Barkley, did he look real dangerous? The most dangerous Giant on the field on Sunday was Wan'Dale Robinson, right? Saquon Barkley looked okay. Austin Eckler's had a terrible year, right? The guy from Baltimore, Taylor, I think it is. Yeah, he's had a bad year, and you don't want to give these second contracts out. Definitely not too soon. I like Kyron. Maybe if you give it to him now, so he doesn't ask for more later, and you secure a 5th year or a 6th year, but you don't want to give them too much money up front. And I know that's painful, but the days have changed. Rob, Steeler fan Rob in Missouri, now you know why we got rid of Witherspoon. He hardly played for you guys, but for the most part, Witherspoon's been a revelation this year. Witherspoon's been great. And Steeler fan Rob, you're in my cool book right now. Don't push any buttons. The Steelers and Steeler fan Rob, you're in my cool book, and I'm not keeping any receipts right now. So we're happy. Geez nuts. I don't like Kendrick, but he saved us. Oh, absolutely. With that TD breakup, absolutely, geez nuts. He did a great job on that breakup. He was fantastic there. And again, it comes to show you that he wasn't the only problem in the secondary, right? He became the whipping boy, but he's not the only problem. Agree about Ernest Jones. He is a beast in the middle. Thank you so much, geez nuts. I do. I agree. Different kind of player than some of those other guys I mentioned, but I want him. I want him re-signed. And traditionally we don't do that. Most teams don't, but there's a role for him. And something else to think about too, or the Rams are going to be in a weird spot. Who's the next defensive coordinator if Raheem Morris gets a job, right? I was all out on Raheem Morris last year, but boy, they played a lot more press coverage this year. They were a lot more physical, a lot more aggressive. They were so passive last year. And I thought they had no reason to be passive last year as the season was spun away. Just be aggressive and just take what comes. But it's going to be interesting to see if he goes, because not only you got to replace him, but what's the new system and what kind of player do you need for that system? Something to think about. Those 79 Rams were my favorite team of all time. Really? Geez, they were the most emotional team, right? Because if you grew up watching the Rams in the 70s, a good chunk of the guys that were on there in 72 and 73 were still on the team in 79. And so you felt like you had a kinship with them. It's not like they played 1 year, 2 years, and were gone. I knew Dave Ellendorf. I feel like Dave Ellendorf lived in my neighborhood for 9 years, right? Larry Brooks lived in my neighborhood, right? Merlin Olsen was always there. Of course, Olsen didn't play in the Super Bowl, but those guys were just there forever. Jack Reynolds, they were your guys, and Rod Perry and Pat Thomas, and those were your boys. And then when they slowly started going away, it was so sad. So you were happy in 79. And I have to admit that there are times I watched that Super Bowl 14 highlight from NFL Films, and the music and Facenda. It's all designed to get us into tears. You just want it so bad. You just want it something like maybe on that last play, Ferragamo this time sees Billy Waddy, right? It's like if you grew up watching The Dirty Dozen, right? And every time you watch it over and over again, you want to believe Jim Brown's going to make it. Instead, he gets gunned down every time. I digress. Let's see. Bill, who's the quarterback of the Rams during the strike season? Are you talking 82? 82, it was Burt Jones for the first 4 games, hurt his neck, and that was the end of his career. And then Ferragamo came in 82. And then in 87, it was Jim Everett. And I think it was Bernard Quarles, the former UCLA, former Hawaii quarterback, that filled in the 87 when they had the replacement players. I don't call them scabs, just the replacement players in 87. But yeah, that was those were the quarterbacks during the strike seasons. U.S. expat hated Wendell Tyler in a Niner uniform. Hacksaw Reynolds, yeah, and we gave Hacksaw Reynolds away pretty much too. Absolutely, that was something I didn't know. How do you go into this? How do you share this? I think I share it during the off season when we get to the draft time. And U.S. expat, I'll share this with you. Is the Rams gave Jack Reynolds, in one way, shape, or form, Jack Reynolds and what's his name, Wendell Tyler, to the 49ers. Also, by trade, they gave them the picks that allowed them to draft Charles Haley as well. And there's a few other things that the Rams chipped in with the 49ers. They also, in the 90s, moved back in the draft. They dealt with the 49ers so the 49ers could move up and draft a guy named Bryant Young. It wasn't Bryant Young. I butcher his name sometimes. The Hall of Famer now. But yeah, the Rams were the best friends of the 49ers back in those days and stuff. And so, yeah, that's brutal. Steve Ramirez, last question of the day. Steve Ramirez, who is the new special teams coach for the Rams? Dick Vermeil? Somebody, right? Anybody? Remember it used to be Bobby April was a big hot commodity back in the 80s and 90s. Somebody, can we bring Fossil back? Anybody, right? This is brutal, and it's just stay in your lanes, man. Just stay in your lanes. All right, guys.
It was a stone group, my man.
This has been our best live show ever. I hate leaving. I really do. We've been up to 21 live, 17. Guys, I know I'm a small fish in the pond, but the fact that we got this many live listeners, live viewers, you guys have done me a solid. I really appreciate it. I know we don't do a lot of the graphics and we don't do a lot of the stuff like that. And again, I know what this face looks like, but really appreciate you guys clicking on. If you could hit that subscribe button, if you could maybe take a link of this and share it around social media. And as our good friend Tim Burns has said, some people are talking about us in other places. That's awesome. That's a blessing. couple things we don't do is I don't do the gambling stuff because I don't know how to gamble. I just don't. And then the other aspect of it is I think there's ways of sharing and talking sports without being profane. And that's just me. It's how I'm built. My day job is I pastor a small church in Burbank Faith Nazarene, and we have Burbank Faith Virtual right here on YouTube. All right, guys, I'm going to let you go, but thank you so much. And we will see you. I'm going to try to be on tomorrow. Let's get on tomorrow and get back into a regular routine. God bless. Take care, guys. See you soon.